Hello everyone, I'm Andrew Can, and if I can, you can too. I'm very excited today because we are going to discuss what YouTube is looking at when it comes to YouTube thumbnails. Now, a lot of people feel YouTube thumbnails are an impossible task, that it is a mountain that they constantly have to climb. But if we understand what YouTube is looking for and trying to get out of it, then we can start understanding what we can look at in terms of YouTube thumbnails to make it successful. What do they want to know? So, that being said, I'm really excited to be here in the chat. Let me know where you are watching, whether you're watching live or the replay. Really curious. If you're watching the replay, there's still a ton of value for you. There's a lot of resources linked in the description down below, so I highly recommend you check that out. That being said, today we're going to go over a lot of different ways to analyze thumbnails. So some free ways, some paid ways, some things just to keep in mind as we go along. But just wanted to say shout outs to Chris. I see AB Destroyer 233 says live. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Really excited for the show. Hopefully this time around there are no audio issues. I think I got that all figured out. But please, if we are live, you notice anything, let me know. That said, I want to talk about YouTube thumbnails. And hello, Susie, who says I'm watching live. YouTube thumbnails are one of the most important things when it comes to a YouTube video. The reason is that if people never click on your video or click on that thumbnail, it doesn't matter if you made a great video, they've never clicked through to see it. So it's super important that we think of thumbnails first and foremost. We also need to think dynamically about our thumbnails, so multifaceted ways. I see Chocolate Twist Yoga says hello, great to see you. Watching from beautiful Southern California, I'm coming live to you at beautiful Southern California, so I think that is good. Hopefully, if you were in the US, daylight savings time didn't kick your butt like it did mine. But you know what? Gave me an extra hour. Super excited for this. I got to fall back and enjoy some sleep. I'm excited though, because when you are doing thumbnails, one thing you need to think about is how am I looking? How am I presenting? Am I well rested? That being said, if you are looking to get your thumbnails looked at by me, you can do so via the link in the pinned live comment. But if you're watching the replay, that won't necessarily do that. But I go live every other week. So you can always check and subscribe to the channel to see. But I just want to remind everyone that if you want to get your thumbnail reviewed, use that form in the description if you're watching live. One of the perks of being to the live. So, that being said, why don't I stop delaying because I've just given people time to come on in. And why don't we start looking at how you can see what YouTube and Google are looking for when it comes to thumbnails. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch to my other screen here so you guys can see. Let me know if you guys can still hear and see me. Should be good. Had a couple issues yesterday. Just wanting to make sure we're all good. I see the chat saying so far so good. So I think we are going to be all right to go ahead and do this. I'm going to copy and paste this link for you guys if you want to follow along. Now, there are ways you can do this for free. So this is called Google's Cloud Vision API. Now, the main focus of this is to make sure that we are using Google's machine learning. Google is constantly analyzing our thumbnails. If you don't know, Google owns YouTube. There are some people who out there still do not know that to this day. So that being said, this is going to be a very important breakdown. So YouTube and Google look at thumbnails in a different way. Now, if you want your thumbnails reviewed, as I mentioned, go ahead that you can check. I see Chris says, was it rescheduled? Thought it was supposed to go live. I went live a little early. We can do whatever we want. This is the beauty of creativity. So we are going to click on try the API. We can drag a file here, or we can just browse our computer. Now, I trust my past self. So here you can see, here are some of the thumbnails I have done. You can see a combination of my personal channel, my gaming channel. But, you know, I always say you never know. But why don't we go ahead and take a look at a unique thumbnail I have. So why don't we have one with me and Nick Nimmin? When to stream. You also have to verify you're not a robot. So great to see Dimmy. Great to see Tech Lovin' Mama. Says hello, everyone. Dimmy says hello as well. So great to see everyone. So here we can see me and Nick. It's two faces. I wanted to do this for a very particular reason. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so this is a little more clear for you. And again, you can follow along with your own thumbnails. This API is 100% free. So if you're like, I have to do something or I got to pay, I highly encourage you to check this out. It is free. It gives you an idea of what Google is looking at. Hence, Google owns YouTube. And also, one of the things you'll notice, the first thing the API calls to out is faces. So it's looking for faces. And so there's two faces here. And we were both very happy. The joy scale is off the chart. But look at the other emotions. There's joy, there's sorrow, there's angry, there's surprise, there's exposed, there's blurred, and there's headwear. So the others are not so much emotions, but just a little bit of fun. But if you look here, for me, I have a 0 score on headwear, but for Nick, who is phase 2, headwear, very likely that he's wearing it. This confidence score is giving you an idea of how it feels on what it's noticing in the image. So the reason this is important is because for years, TubeBuddy, a place I used to work at, we always used to say that having faces and thumbnails are important. Now, here's the thing. That is correct. And here's another important bit. Just as it is important to have a person's face in the thumbnail, that's just half the battle. What is that person emoting? And the reason this is important is because recently through my work, I was able to speak with YouTube directly. And that was so mind-blowing because what they were telling us is that a lot of people will focus on trying to be the best because they're like, I want to, they think there's one way to do YouTube thumbnails. And the reality is instead of there's one right way, there's actually a bunch of different ways. And they said to stop looking for like a finite, like this is the only way to do it, and start thinking, and they said, think of it like you should do this and also other stuff. So I come from a filmmaking background. I come from an acting and directing background. So for me, it's very similar to improv. Now, what does he mean by that? What I mean by that is that the thumbnail advice we gave at TubeBuddy was only half the battle. Thumbnails with faces do better than them, yes. And if you're going to have a human face in the thumbnail, you want to show a strong emotion. So, yes, thumbnails with faces in them do better. And when they're paired with a strong emotion that matches the title of the video. Of course, proper SEO, making sure people are searching for it. If you're not doing SEO, you're not going for search engine optimization, so you're not trying to rank in search, you're just trying to get YouTube to suggest you, then being expressive really matters. And it's funny because, hello there, Richie Reet. It's funny because when it comes to YouTube, right, we often hear people saying, I hate the YouTube face, but the reality is that YouTube face that let me just say, I don't want to always have to like over exaggerate, but I have to admit it works. And that comes from just understanding that YouTube is trying to understand human behavior. It's trying to make sure humans are interested. It's trying to keep human interest so YouTube can keep people watching. And so I actually might make this a little bit bigger on this here, maybe not too much bigger, trying to make sure that I'm not covering the whole screen. I do wish I could collapse this, but to each their own. But the main point here is that when it comes to anything on YouTube is that it's multifaceted and those YouTube faces work. Now, I did see a comment here from Tech Love Mama saying, so using a cartoon face isn't good? LOL, because I use AR emoji a lot. Well, I would recommend testing it. See if maybe non-AR emoji faces, how do they perform? That's something we're going to go over just a little bit later in this live stream. Another thing I want to mention is if you would like me to look at your thumbnails at any point during the stream, please check out that form linked in the pinned comment of the live and in the description. If you're watching the replay, though, make sure to come back again. I promise we have a lot of value in store for you. But the thing is, just looking here, right? We know that this is a joyous stream, but it goes deeper. This is why I love Google's API. And there's many vision-based APIs, but I tend to use Google because it's most synonymous with, well, YouTube. If we go to objects, it sees glasses, person. Now, it doesn't always get 100%. You'll notice that it has confidency ratings. This is still early. This is a demo. It's in beta. So understanding that this will have some things it may not get right away, but as it gets better, as it learns more and more, it'll only improve. If we go to the next one, we'll see labels. So it notices, well, there are definitely some foreheads in here. If you click on them, it'll go to search. So forehead is accurate. Glasses for Nick, very accurate. There are definitely heads, but here, if we look at labels, It's identified these microphones. It apparently thinks this is a public address system, but it's also noticed his beard. It's noticed font. It says audio equipment. That's fair. Eyewear, t-shirt, happy. Television program, you always gotta be looking. So if we see here, it says logo, it says speech, it says public speaking, facial hair, orator. Always interesting what it'll notice. Logos, it thinks this is a Wilton logo. Again, kind of. When to stream, it's noticed. It's noticed Rode on the microphones. Look at how this text is very tiny, but it's able to pick up on this. Now, you might be like, all right, Andrew, it's noticing a lot of cool things, but what does this have to do with my thumbnails? So much. When YouTube is thinking, what's a thumbnail? Maybe it's search. If you're doing, let's say in this one, I have two microphones. Obviously, it's one to stream, but let's say I was doing a microphone review. Is a microphone even into the thumbnail image? It can look at that and see. If not, it's going to have to look at other factors. Always think about how YouTube would try to help people. Again, stop trying to please the algorithm because the algorithm's trying to please people. YouTube's trying to see what would people recognize. So this is looking at things like, is there a mic in this shot? If it's a microphone review, if it's a tech review of any kind. So it's noticing all these things. For the thumbnail for the stream, I made sure to put an overlay similar to what they're doing here. So you need to think like how they're looking at these items. They're looking at these things to make sure it's relevant to a user, making sure that whatever you titled and described and tagged and hashtagged and all the things you can do for your video, that it's accurate. And Google's looking because it's trying to avoid clickbait. And one of the ways they do that is through here. So there's a difference between clickbait, which is like if I called this here video, how to always get 1 million views when live streaming. That's not really, it's kind of clickbaity. But when to stream is what I titled this, and it kind of goes into how YouTube is looking at it. Now, one of the things is, as it says, I know this is TubeBuddy, but it says Tubo Rud. Close, but not quite cigar. But if you're enjoying this live stream, let me know with a hashtag Tubo Rud. Curious to seeing there. Of course, always having a fun time. Thank you to the 16 of you watching with me live. I hope you guys are finding this invaluable. I see from Herku, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Hi, hello, and welcome. Great to have you here. Excited to be live today. So we've noticed the faces. We've noticed the emotion it's looking at. We've noticed some of the objects. It doesn't always get it, but look at those labels to see if it notices that microphone there. Logos, again, wasn't able to get that. Text, it got pretty accurately, except maybe hashtag Tubo Rud. Not necessarily the most accurate. Hello there, I'll be tastic. Great to see you. But one thing I also like, and you can do this for any image. If you're trying to make thumbnails, this is so cool because it gives you an idea of the dominant colors. And it gives you like a spectrum. Now, obviously, this one of me and Nick. Well, this one had a dominant color scheme. This is me testing it. But another thing you can notice is like where it's cropping, what it's looking at. I try to focus on the dominant color because it gives you like the actual color code. So if there's an image you like online and you're like, I love this image, or if you take a sunset or something like that and you're like, I want to get the colors for my thumbnail, you can do that here. And it's free. Again, link in the description. I put it in the chat a little bit earlier to the Cloud Google Vision. It's free for you to try. I'll put it in again. I highly recommend you play along with me. Now, another thing is safe search. So it says here, likeness values are unknown, very unlikely, possible, likely, and very likely. This is important because if, for example, you have a thumbnail that might be considered too racy, too violent, too adult, YouTube may not be as likely to share that out. So you need to keep in mind that if your thumbnail is too outrageous, too bold, it might not get shared as far because you got to keep in mind YouTube has its terms of service. Make sure to always read that when it comes to that. Now, it does, what I've noticed on my thumbnails, it'll say spoof high a lot. I don't know what that means. I've asked, the closest I've got from asking the support is that it thinks I'm making fun of, I'm spoofing another popular format. And I mean, at this point, I get it, but spoof is so vague. Like, what isn't spoof? What, is. So, as great as this is, keep in mind that YouTube has said faces and thumbnails do better, and when they're paired with a strong emotion. So, when I'm looking here, I want to know what you guys think in the comments down below. What emotion do you tend to have when it comes to your own thumbnail images? For me, I tend to try to be happy or surprised. I try not to have anger, though that might be something that I could try when it comes to maybe another YouTube update where they only tell us in the email blast. And then I'm wondering, why would you do it like this? But let me know, what is the emotion you try to find or give off in your thumbnails the most? I'm curious. Now, I want to go back to, that AR emoji from Tech Lovin' Mama, because here's the thing. This works not only on human faces. And guess what? I have a lot of different kind of content. So I test this even with my gaming channel. Now you might be like, why do I care about gaming? It actually matters. So this was actually an image I had on my gaming channel. And it's interesting to see what it looks like. It's identified an animal for Ariel, who I use this as an example because it's using Little Mermaid. It's pretty popular. It's Kingdom Hearts, uses gaming, uses stuff. So I use this because most people can identify the gaming characters here. So the thing is, as we look here, some of the things it's saying is like it's noticing a lot of hair. And of course, if we click there, facial expression, cartoon, vertebrate, which interesting, green, nature, azure, human, natural environment, people and nature. So even though, this is CG, it's still identifying them still. Now, here's where it gets interesting. It noticed the text of 24, but what if we go to safe search? It thinks it's racy. It thinks it's adult. Why is that? This is a kid's game. Why would it think that? Well, here's the thing. Google can't necessarily understand the context, right? And I actually changed the thumbnail. This video started doing a little bit better. But think about it. Even though, it's just a merman, Google doesn't know that. Google doesn't know what's below here. What's actually below here is that my beautiful rendition. Do not judge my drawing skills. This is completely a mermaid tail. As you can see with my beautiful drawing of a mermaid tail, you guys should hopefully be able to get the idea, get the gist there. So the main point is, it looks racy and adult because they don't understand the context. They being Google, being YouTube. So I thought this was a fine thumbnail, but it turns out I could see, like, if I look objective, I could see how they think this is adult. I could see how they think this is racy. So where I just thought this was a pretty neutral thumbnail, Google thought it was pretty adult. And so they didn't necessarily want to take that risk. I changed the thumbnail, started doing a lot better. But you have to remember the terms of service for YouTube. They're trying to go for family friendly. This is actually, in my opinion, a pretty family friendly image, but to Google, maybe not. And that can go to yours. I've had a couple of friends where, like, it's them shirtless holding a piece of gear because they were doing a mountain climbing video, and they're like, whoa, 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 that's potentially racy. And they never saw it like that. So that's another way you can kind of get an idea of how Google's seeing this. Of course, if you're enjoying this stream and you would like your thumbnail review, I'm going to go ahead and check the form. Hopefully we have some in there. If not, we'll just keep on going. We have 2 responses. As we're going through, as always, you can share out the stream, get other people in here. Always enjoy seeing people in. So we have a thumbnail that someone asked me to take a look at, and I'm excited to share this out. Well, I get something, LOL. Well, my drawing skills are off the screen. I'm sorry, everyone. Hashtag he can draw, maybe, I don't know. But if we look here at, what we're looking at, this comes from Chocolate Twist Yoga. Now, I want to go ahead and see what we can find with this thumbnail. Now, if I go to downloads, we have here, the face is joy. So it's recognized that you are happy, hands-free, 15 minutes. So if I look here, it's definitely recognized you're happy, but this is also an AI. And my fear with this image is that you're pretty small in the scheme of how big this image is. So I wonder how that will play into it. Now, it has noticed a person, and it has noticed clothing. One thing I'd keep in mind is, like, on a smaller screen, blue on blue here is a way that you kind of are blending in with the background. So this wasn't planned, so forgive me if it's a little rough, but one of my favorite websites is called UI Gradients, and I'll make sure to share this with you. It's where I get my favorite gradients. You can show all your gradients, and this is a great thing for anyone. So like let's say you're looking for a red. This is right now free. You can download this background and use it in your images, all for free. So again, lots of color options, lots of different dynamic stuff. Put that in. Wasn't Now the reason I bring this up is for you. I want to make sure that you have enough separation between foreground, which is that text, you in a blue image, and then your background, which is blue on blue. So just consider that. Another thing I'd say is as we look for labels, it's saying smile, sleeve, font, sportswear, thigh, entrepreneur, electric blue, happy, performing arts. All of these make sense. Sometimes it gets really kind of specific and it's like human legs. Now, I see Chris Johnson says I use Photoshop for that. I know how to do it in Photoshop too, but I don't always know the colors I want to use. And sometimes I find great colors there. It's also free. And if you have Photoshop, that's not free. So I always try to give free alternatives to a lot of stuff out there. Another thing you can do is consider that, we might think this is fine, but how would Google see it? Let's find out. It's noticed minutes, it's noticed 15, it's noticed hands-free, it noticed your logo. We go to properties, here's that color palette. As you can see, it's a lot of blues. And then if we go to safe search, it's unlikely adult, obviously. I don't think this is very adult, but it is important to see that you might teeter on that line there. So this is just something to keep in mind and think about as we go through. It doesn't think it's racy, but I would say when it comes to this, try to always think of if someone is viewing this from afar. So let's think about how people view this on mobile. What I'm getting here, if I look, and everyone in the audience, please give your feedback too here. I find that you in this image are kind of lost amongst all the blue, which is why I linked to those gradients for you. And I find that I love the idea that you are involved with the text, but because of how small you are, I don't necessarily know if I get that. What I might want to see is you closer in frame. Obviously, if this has a great click through rate, take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. But, if this is something you're trying to get better, this is something I'd keep in mind when it comes to your thumbnail here. So I really do appreciate you sharing, and I hope this has been very useful. Because for me, I love taking a look at this. I mean, Chocolate Twist Yoga, I hope this is very useful and helpful for you. And I always enjoy getting to see different kind of thumbnails. So as we go here, I see we have another thumbnail that I can take a look at, and I'm going to do so now. And I hope you guys are finding this very helpful. If you guys are, consider sharing this out. It does help and do appreciate it. Let's go ahead and take a look at Chris Johnson, who's using Photoshop, but it's always important to look at what it's saying. Now, interesting enough, I see where YouTube's saying this is possibly surprised. This is, to me, a surprise face, but YouTube might, you got to remember YouTube's been trained on YouTube face, so keep that in mind. But in terms of YouTube face, this is it's almost like in between. So you got to keep in mind that anything YouTube is looking at when it comes to this is that it's looking for like strong expression. So I understand why it's in between, though I understand it's surprise. I see from Chocolate Twist Yoga, they said, thank you. I'll check out UI Gradient, make myself bigger, and use a contrasting color. Yes, definitely. And also Google color, look up contrasting colors because it'll help you understand what pops in the thumbnail. I see from Tech Love and Mama, when you say link to thumbnail, do you mean the video link? No. I put in the Google form, there's an Imgur, so you can upload your thumbnail and you'll get an Imgur link. You can paste that in. Just follow the link in the description of the form. It should help you out. So, when I look here, going back to you, Chris, I get what you're going for. But actually, let me ask, are you going for surprise, or maybe this is an attempt for joy? Let's not assume. Let's get things. No, it's also not 100% confident. It's only in the 61 percentile here. Another thing I would say is as we look in the objects, it definitely knows there's a person. My thing is when I look at how to make a YouTube custom thumbnail, does this emotion match what we're trying to do? And that's just a question for the audience. Now, if you're going for surprise, are you surprised on how easy it is? Because the emotion here for just how to make a thumbnail, I don't know if it works per se. Not saying it's bad, but I'm just saying I'm thinking about it in terms of like if I'm searching, and this is me personally. Again, you can always, Chris, you will have your data, you will know. But what if it's how to make a YouTube thumbnail? How to make a YouTube thumbnail is easily surprising, or how to make a custom YouTube thumbnail surprisingly easy. Then the surprise makes a lot of sense. Again, I'm just basing on what you titled the image. I don't have the full context, but I'm curious. Albitastic says that it should be happy. So again, I mean, I'm looking for like reassurance if I don't know something, but that's me. Again, see what works. It's noticed the YouTube logo, it's noticed YouTube custom thumbnail. So it's noticing that, notices a pretty diverse color range here. Although one thing I will say is because there's a lot of red and yellow, the skin is very naturally red, so sometimes you can blend in more than maybe intention. Your eyes are blue, so this actually helps a shit ton when it comes to standing out. I could swear on this one. I am not held back, but honestly, your blue eyes pop more than anything on this, in my opinion, just because that the flesh tones are so there. But like if I look here, your blue eyes are from afar are more apparent than your face. And then just because of all the color, this one might be an example of, and again, you'll know. I'm curious to what your impressions are, what your click-through rate is. So let me know. So I see here from Chris, I make custom photos in Photoshop session to use in the future, so I should make a new session now considering the information I've gotten the last few days. And I should make more happy faces. You know what? I just think, Chris, just in general, man, you should just smile more. But I understand completely. For me, I actually find I make too many happy faces and not enough like surprise and other emotions. So I've been testing that out. And that is something I've been doing. I see from Chocolate Twist Yoga, Shiba dog raises and lowers his index fingers to get noticed. I'm assuming that's a super sticker. And I checked on YouTube, it is. It's a thumbs up, but I do find that description is pretty good. Chris also says, also, yeah, I needed to declutter my thumbnails and simplify them. And again, I'm glad that you are looking at it critically because that's the thing that a lot of people I struggle with this because I know what it's like. I've put in like that gaming thumbnail. I put in hours. I was like, man, this is gonna be great. This is gonna. Oh no, that's not what I intended at all. And there goes all my work. So what I'll say is that I'm very glad that you're looking at this, Chris, critically because it shows you care and it shows your. I know you teach YouTube to people. If you haven't checked out Chris's channel, highly recommend you do so. But you also have to think if someone never knew you, and this is where it goes into if I didn't know you, Chris, I couldn't necessarily know the emotion you're trying to tell. And then, I can see the text, but it's very similar color palette. Purple and yellow do contrast, but when you have purple on purple and yellow on this here, it can be all a little too samey. So all of that is stuff to think of. I do think it's simple, but also it's the background here that could be there. I posted in Facebook groups and learned from their constructive criticism. There's also YouTube discords that are very helpful. There are a lot of things out there for people, but I'm glad you're looking. And I think that says a lot. I also think that it's cool that you can see your color palette. I hopefully you do this on purpose, but if anyone is ever like, how did he do that? Again, if there's a thumbnail you like, here's a way to see it. Now, interestingly enough, it thinks this is possibly adult, possibly racy, possibly violent. Unlikely, but it's possible. So I'm curious to what that is. It could just be this emotion is like it's unsure. It also could see it as you are terrified. It could see you as you're in a horror movie. Again, I'm not saying that you are. I'm just trying to give a perspective of what YouTube sees, right? So there are lots of different ways I could look at it. Ike says, "Whoa there, you can't just curse like that. Dag nabbit, dag flabbit. Please don't report the stream. I gotta keep this up." But jokes aside, thanks for joining, Ike. Always have fun. But I definitely see where they think this could be adult, just because if you think of horror movies, you think of all those different things. This is kind of a common pose for those too. And sometimes it's an AI. It's not always going to nail it. So keep things like that in mind as well. Overall, though, thank you for sharing your thumbnail. I think it looks good, but I'm curious the impressions and click through rate. I would look for more contrasting colors. I'd almost put, and maybe this is also goes into the shirt we're wearing. Like I'm wearing red because it stands out. But like if we look at like my own streaming setup, right? Like I wore red today because against that blue and against the light I have coming from there and against this, it helps me pop. It helps me stand out. So there's multifacets and everything we got to do. Welcome to YouTube. May I take your order? I hope you guys are having a lot of fun. I know I am. But we have more people we can look at their thumbnails. I see this from Albitastic, although it is his YouTube channel. And the question I wanted to make sure, is it too crowded and is the text readable? I think it's a little too crowded. The text is readable, but from afar, because of the colors you do have, like if I look at it there, it becomes harder for me to see. And again, remember, 80% of people are watching on their phone. A follow-up for this could be for you, Chris, is how to make a custom YouTube thumbnail on your phone if it's not already talked about in this video. So all things to think about. I say cursing is fine as long as you are not using it towards someone. Well, dag flabbing Andrew, I'm gonna do. Does yourself count? Ike says I just wear black, so I'm just a floating head most of the time. AI is definitely artificial, but not intelligent for sure. I love that, but it is what is being used along with machine learning and a couple of other things. So keep all of that in mind. Chris says, yeah, I'm planning to make a Canva tutorial as well. There you go. Make sure on Canva, though, and I always tell people this, that if you make your logo, read that fine print. You technically don't own the logo if you make it in Canva. There's a couple of things in their fine print. I love Canva, but always read. I say that on anything, though. There's a couple things on the YouTube terms of service that people really need to read. And people are like, what? They do what? So always make sure. So as I am pulling up the other YouTube thumbnails, I want to remind people if you want to get yours looked at, you can do so by checking out the pinned link in the chat or in the description down below. You can use Imgur, and that's a way that I can take a look at different thumbnails. If you put the YouTube link, it's harder for me to do it. I know how, but it can take a little bit of time. So that being said, why don't we take a look here? Hello, Scully's House of Thrillers. Great to see you. Let's take a look here at Albitastics. Hopefully I was able to get this right. All right, so immediately, the first thing it's noticing is packaged goods. Interesting. It's noticed the computer, Windows 11 on the Z800 by Albitastic. So I'm assuming that's going to be the title. If I look here, it's a lot of text. There's nothing wrong with this. There's definitely a Best Buy like color scheme. I don't know if that was on purpose, but when I see this, I think Best Buy, which is a very tech-friendly color focus. Obviously, it could think it's medical white text with an image like this in the background. I get spoof, unlikely. One thing I will say is it's not necessarily clear to me just looking at this, but I would say I don't necessarily get Windows 11 just by this. I know this is the popular Windows 11 background, but if I look here, you say Windows 11 upgrade for free on the Z800 and other unsupported PCs. I feel like this doesn't necessarily get across the upgrade for free on unsupported PCs. Maybe I'd put, for me, I'd maybe say get Windows 11 on any PC. And then you talk about how there's some unsupported. Obviously, that might be too much clickbait, not click worthy. You will know more than me, and I always stress that to people. I will say that I don't think the text is bad, but I would say I didn't necessarily get Windows 11 right off the bat without the text. Now, because there's no strong emotion, that is fine. But this is really where, when YouTube is going to look at it, it needs to understand Windows 11, and it really isn't understanding that. It could be as simple as having the Windows 11 logo in it to help it a little bit more. It could be as a little bit more clear with a Microsoft logo like near HP here or something. There are ways to do this. I'd also say the subscribe now and buy Albitastic. If I'm a viewer, I don't necessarily know about this yet. And you have to think about new viewers, especially because YouTube's trying to help new viewers find content, and your content might be that right fit. And if I scroll from afar, I can barely read subscribe now. Buy Albitastic for me as a new viewer doesn't mean much. So all I have is this. And then it's not bad, but it's a little busy. And what I mean by that is there's a lot going on in that one corner. So I like the framing using the PC case here. And obviously it is the Z800, but I think the title you have, which is Windows 11 upgrade for free on the Z800, I think the Windows 11 upgrade for free on unsupported PCs is super interesting. And that is where you could get that interest there. And I hope that makes sense. You asked me, and does it work? I don't think it is as strong as it could be, but it does work. I'd be curious to how people are taking a look and really reacting to this here, because I want to see you succeed, Albitastic, but I'm just curious to how people are here. I see the Elliott family of 7. Right on. Great subject. Happy to see you here. Thank you for the kind comments you've been leaving on the channel. It does mean a lot. If you're interested, there is a link to where you can get me to look at your thumbnail. But I think it's time to change things up. We're not just going to be looking at free ways. I mentioned earlier here, there are also paid ways. Now, I understand. When anything is paid, it can be bad. There will be a free trial link to the software I'm linking. It's an affiliate link, in full disclosure. And another disclosure is I used to work for this company. I no longer work there, but I still trust their software. That being said, if you know what I'm talking about, great. But if you don't, you can get a free trial and check this out for yourself. And that is TubeBuddy. TubeBuddy.com/can. Andrew's Buddy for 25% off if you want to get the paid version, but you can get a free trial for it too. In TubeBuddy, there is something that is called Clickmagnet. So if we look here, this is where we can go. So we're going to click on the TubeBuddy drop-down menu. We are going to redo this because it's obviously having problems. Click on that Clickmagnet. Click on click. Huh? So Tech Lovin' Mama, if that isn't working for you, you said you're having issues, go ahead and check. Just go ahead and put the video link there. I'll do my best to get it like I was able to with Albitastic. And of course, if you are enjoying the stream, please consider sharing it out to anyone who's been struggling or needs more help on their thumbnails, anyone you think this might be valuable for. Ike says, hey, this is a hashtag ad. They are not paying me for a hashtag ad, but of course, I do love the software. And Ike used to work there too. Shout outs to Ike. But if we click on Clickmagnet, this is a beta software. So what it's going to do is it is going to say beta preview. It's going to do some of the stuff kind of like I did manually. Of course, I always try to show you the free alternatives. But if you want a software to do this for you, this is going to let you do stuff such as Element Inspector, where it's recognizing faces versus no face. This is something I've tested out, although the data is a little skewed because it's going to look at your last 50 images, right? And since I only have one that has no face in it, it's a little skewed. But for Albitastic, this would definitely be something that would be very useful, because if you don't do faces, maybe you try one where you get a stock face. I understand not everyone wants to show their face. I fully get that. But There's a lot of free, royalty-free images you can use, a lot of stuff. Great to see Essentio artists. If you are not checking them out, they are also a great YouTube channel. Thank you so much for sharing it in your group. Love your channel. Always fun to stop by your streams. Thank you. We will get to you in just a second, the Elliott family of 7. But the thing is, it also notices emotions, right? So it'll identify what emotions it's recognized. So happy. It says sad here. Of course, it's using Amazon's image recognition. There's different APIs. Some are free, some are not. Lots of different options out there. I've been trying more surprise faces and some just general neutral ones, although I find my neutral thumbnails are not doing as well as some of my stronger emotions. Happy and surprised do really well. The one it's saying is sad. Obviously it's not, but interesting. Here's something as well. One thing that the Google API can't do is how close should I be to my thumbnail? Should I be live demonstration? Should I be right up? Or should I be far? Everything is different. So let's go ahead and take a look at it and let's see what it's identified for some of mine. So long shot, meaning that I am farther away. As you can see, long shot, it uses this. It gives you an idea. Medium shot, close up. So for me, medium shots tend to do what I do the most of. I've tried a couple of close ups. Those have had okay results. Mixed face sizing, meaning one or more people. I have a couple of videos on this channel with that. Long shot is me farther away. And as you guys can see, it even gives you a preview, tells you how many clicks those have gotten, all their combined stuff. Also tells me text versus no text. I tend to have more text than not because I feel like text can, help. So, yeah. Hi, Albie. I'm awesome, says Essential Artist. I thought that was something Albie was having an issue with. But yeah, that just gives you an idea of face versus no face. It gives you an idea of the emotions. Again, you can use Google Vision to kind of cross reference text versus no text. All that's super useful. CTR opportunities is interesting because it'll show you where your opportunities lie. So this one, the video when people watch it performs really high, but its click-through rate is low. Now, one thing I will say on this one is that the better your video does, on average, the lower the click through rate goes because YouTube is sharing it out with lots of people. That thumbnail, for example, is killing it where I was targeting it, which is search. In search, that has 11% click through rate, but a general click through rate, it has a 4.35. So it's understanding if this video wasn't targeting search, well, that's a place for improvement. Similarly, this one is targeting search. All my content currently is targeting search, although it's something I'm working on. So you can see here that I heavily target search, and the lower ones, it gives you an idea, right? So this performance is good, and this one's click-through rate is good. So this is a very low opportunity for me to fix, where this one has a good performance, but they think its click-through rate should be better. So down here, we have some of my higher performing click-through rates, but maybe the video performance is bad. So this one is a shorter video. Interesting that it's saying that, but of course, this one has a 7%, so it's a low improved area. But this one, when people watch it, they like it. This is a very rushed thumbnail. So this is something where I could improve on here. And I know that. And that's actually a thumbnail I could redo, make it a little better. I think that this, is a very good video. People watch it and they enjoy it. Similar with this one. I actually based this one on a previous well-performing video for me, but obviously it's not performing as well. Excuse me. It could be because people have seen my content and it's too similar. I did say, Chris Johnson, that this is the paid version of TubeBuddy. This is the legend level, which is the highest level. But if you've never had a free trial, there are ways to get it. You can use my affiliate link, and then you can go to free trial. You can also just get a free trial. You don't have to use my affiliate link. But there are lots of ways. Highly recommend checking it out. But of course, do what works best for you. Google Vision API is very useful too. This just makes it a little easier to read. And of course, advanced analytics. So it gives you an idea of the impressions and it power ranks them of which is your worst. So, I mean, the number of impressions and people that click through this is pretty bad. But if we go to number 1 million impressions, 53 million clicks is not bad. My click through rate is 5. So this has been seen by 1 million people, which is insane. So I always try to show people like impressions is how many people have seen a video. Click through rate is how many people have actually clicked and watched. This is a great question. And this comes from Essentio Artist. Andrew, how long do you monitor the performance of a thumbnail for a particular video? And do you go back and improve your thumbnails often? I love this question. So, when it comes to a video, I am constantly checking weekly. How's it doing? Is it meeting my expectations? Where is it falling off? The first thing I look at is what are the impressions. So, I'll go a step further. And this is a video that I'm very proud of. It's my chapters video. It's doing pretty well. But if I go to reach and I look objectively and I look at the last 7 days, its impressions are down pretty bad, 25% compared to the last. Click-through rate is down 11%, views per impression. So while this is doing well, this is down overall. So I go deeper. And you can do this with your own analytics. So this video is not that old. October, if I look at since published, September, for me, that's not that old. But I also want to see how it's doing in the last 7 days. And if I look here, you know, we're at 3.9, 0.7, 2.7, and I go to see more. And what I want to do is look at traffic source. How is this performing? So in search, which is where I'm targeting this, it's actually not doing that well for the last 7 days. If I expand this, let's say last 90, it's doing better if I look here, but in the last 7 days, not so well. In browse, which means YouTube is trying to get people interested in this, they showed it to 125 people. Not that many click through. If I go last 28, though, while it's killing it in search, 12.2%, I need to check at all the locations YouTube is sharing it. So when people are searching for it, it's great. But there are ways I can improve. But I also need to look at the great picture, because if I am targeting this in search like I am, this is doing pretty well. But can I improve it? What has it been in the last couple of days? YouTube chapters tutorial, how and why they help you. That is what I'm targeting. So for me, this is starting to underperform, and this is when I thought I need to change my thumbnail. So I actually started an A/B test on this. There is a TubeBuddy A/B test currently running. You can click on TubeBuddy. This is another legend level feature, which is their highest level. And you can run A/B tests manually. Basically, every night at midnight, switch a thumbnail for as many days as you want. It has to be an even number. Ideally, minimum, I'd say 2 weeks. Maximum, as long as it takes to know which one is better. That's what TubeBuddy does, except they do that for you. So when you go to website tools, you go on A/B tests, and this is just me being honest. Like this thumbnail, I'm still not happy with it. This is for my restream tutorial. The change did better, but I'm still not happy with its performance. It's still only 2.4%. And this is something I'm testing. And this emotion isn't that strong. Stream for free is big, but similar to advice I gave earlier, this is blue on blue. Maybe I was going too similar. I used a different color palette here. Maybe that is something I can try on this one, and I can combine the background here. I can improve. Again, I'm always looking to get better performance. So if I go to A/B test, you'll see I also try it on my gaming channel. I always recommend testing, especially if you can. See what I did there? So as we go here, you can see that I started a test. This goes back to oh, I just noticed. Ike, thank you so much for the super sticker. Pair character lifting some weights saying keep it up. Well, that is definitely a way to look at it. But you can see all I've changed is, again, I said this earlier. Will a thumbnail without me do better? I know that for my audience, they see me, they like it. But I also know for a broader audience that this has worked well for me in the past. One of my best performing thumbnails doesn't actually have my face in it. So while I might think this is a good thumbnail, this one might perform better. It might perform worse. And I have to keep that in mind. And that's not me being like, oh, that's just me looking at it objectively. So sometimes it's as simple as removing you. Sometimes it's as simple as adding yourself back. But when you look objectively, when you really think about it, you can do this too. If you're enjoying this thumbnail talk, let me know with hashtag thumbnail in the chat. Curious to see if people are enjoying this. I've been enjoying talking about thumbnails a lot because I feel like they're often overlooked. So, as we go back to what we were looking at earlier, which is Clickmagnet, this is just another way you can do it. You can have it by traffic source. So, like, let's say you're trying to go for suggested. This will show you which one is doing best in suggested, which is again my Elgato one, as well as my Joby GorillaPod one, surprisingly. And would you look at that? This one in suggested, as though it's not doing so well in search. Not bad click-through rate. Impressions aren't where I want them to be, though. I'm seeing Albitastic saying thumbnail. I see from Moto Travels thumbnail. Thank you. I see from Tech Lovin' Mama thumbnail, and of course I see from Chris. Chris says that he loves talking about it as well. Well, thank you. You can also look at this from a lifetime. I see from Essential Artist, got a bounce, but we'll catch replay. Amazing value, Andrew. Thank you. Smash the like button. Thank you. Hashtag thumbnail. Appreciate that. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Now, here's the thing. If you're going for suggested, which is something I don't actively do, but it can happen, that's something to think of. Like, again, this one in browse surprisingly is dominating, and I'm not in it. And that's kind of where me knowing that when I tend not to be in it, tend to do better in browse. And so it's understanding that maybe for a larger audience, if you're going for browse, I mean, this isn't bad. You got to understand how people look at it. And there's nothing that you can do. My Elgato Cam Link broke. So quick question. So I have to use my phone as a cam now, or QQ could mean anything. Sorry about that. Well, that's actually one of the reasons I've been looking for alternatives as I go and get something. One of the things I've been doing is I'm using this G7, and one of my most popular videos is on the Cam Link, but I actually think that because of what Sony's done, this is just the ZV-10, which is one of the newer cameras I've been using. They made it to where using USB-C, this can go and live stream. Oh, QQ, it's a crying face on Twitch. So you can actually live stream straight from camera. And because of the way it's using USB-C, it actively charges it. So you don't need a dummy battery. You technically don't need a Cam Link, and it outputs without right now, and I've tested it. I haven't used it fully because I've had a couple of things I need to just figure out, but there is no actual like overlay images. It's got a clean output. So we have this question right here. Thumbnails are so hard to understand. I try and experiment with different styles, but I understand that. Thumbnails are a trial and error game. And that's why if you use things like I showed off earlier, like Google's Vision API, TubeBuddy, if you look at the data, it can help a lot. Although I understand completely that it can be very challenging. I got a Cam Link, but never used it for my cam. I'm surprised, Ike. I think that could actually save you time in editing there. Also, I understand the reason you're saving. I invested in this because I wasn't sure how I'd like Sony. I'm a Panasonic boy. That's what I'm using right now. So I love that it has the same mount as the upper echelon cameras. So I invested in my lenses, but am dating this body. I'm not going to keep it forever, but I've been impressed to hell with the quality, and I've used it many times now. No one's noticed comparatively to my old quality. So can't get mad there. Is the sensor okay for live streaming? Are you asking about my current or this one? The sensor, I've had no issues. I haven't done that long of a stream. I know that Sony's have had issues with overheating. That's something I want to test before I recommend it. So that is something I'm working on. I'm actually working on a video on how to live stream with it. So keep tuned. But back to our thumbnail discussion. I know we've had some more submissions in the meantime. I know that Tech Love and Mama has been waiting patiently. Same with, some others in the chat, such as the Elliott family. So let's go ahead and see what happens here. See, you use Google Photos. I will save it. Not what I wanted to do. I wanted to download it. It's like, "Are you sure you wanna download? I would very much like to download this photo." It's like, "But are you sure?" So with that, we have another image. Latest Sony never overheat with the dummy battery. No worries. I see from Love and Mama who says, "Sorry, hey, we're getting there together." So, interesting enough that it's noticed the small faces of your avatar, which seem to be here and here. So it does notice them, but because of how small they are, notice how it's indifferent on the emotion because it really can't tell. As a viewer, if I look here, it's noticed the packaged goods, it's noticed the people. I think the phone might be hidden. I know this is about the case, but if the phone is hidden, then the case might be hidden too. Hello, Kilastic TV. Happy to have you here with us. So, this is another example of I'd be curious because this might just be a little bit too similar to where the phone and the background, it might be a purple case. Purple on purple makes it hard for this phone to stand out. I feel like this one has the same issue as my thumbnails, a bit too crowded. I definitely say that. There's also a lot of similar colors, so it kind of just blends in. Like, as I go here, if I go from afar, I see Dungsin case. I can barely read this text, and I see the phone, but I don't really see the case. And again, mobile cases, a lot of people are going to be watching it on their phone. So keep in mind that, viewer, too. So while I like the idea here, I would blow up the phone and case, make it more clear. If you have surprisingly a good case, maybe have your Bitmoji really show that too. Have the case text be different, have it stand out. And I think there's a lot here because like even Google, the only thing it's recognizing is purple, violet, like it's noticing the colors first and foremost, then font, and then fictional characters. And since this is about phone, like if Google can barely identify it, how are your audience, right? And if I look here, it's I don't know if that is actually a Vinod Chopra film. Sometimes, one time it said my face was a logo, and the company it gave me, and I'm still very confused. It said my face was a Best Buy logo. So keep that with a grain of salt. Okay, purple is your thing. So if purple is your thing, there are definitely some colors that stand out. Obviously, a lot of orange stands out. Purple, I mean, Salma Joffrey is a great example. She's the queen of purple in my heart. But yeah. I said you look like a Best Buy kind of guy. Oh, I bet I do. Yeah, but you never know what Google will say. But I definitely see your color palette here. Try to find some of those contrasting colors and definitely think about what you can do. Safe search. I mean, it doesn't think it's really, I'd say unlikely you're fine. But I would just say it's very similar. A lot of purple colors. I'd be curious your impressions click through rate. So with that, I hope that gives you something to think of and something to take a look at. So let us go ahead and look at this next one. And this one will be coming from the Elliott family. Going to be doing my best to pull this up. Think I got it. Yay. Again, doing it on the fly is not the most interesting, but hopefully you guys are finding this. Saw a lot of you say thumbnail. Really does mean a lot. Now, interesting that it's not gathering a very strong emotion. For me, based on this thumbnail alone, you have an X over Costco food. Those are fighting words. You don't understand. That $1.50 hot dog after I've been in Costco for 3 hours is like a reward. That smoothie, I'm kidding. I'm not that heated, but it does elicit a reaction out of me. Why no to the food? But you say your CTR is 8.0% out of 7.8K. So clearly it's performing well. Now, that's not a bad click through rate and that's not a bad performance. But I'd be curious to try A/B testing. What if you had a more clear image of anger? What if you had a different color shirt? Because the white on white can kind of pop. I will say the food with the X over it has definitely got me emotionally charged, but this is a great example of a thumbnail that hits me emotionally. I very can clearly see you put an X over the food. And like I immediately had a response of how dare you? But that's good because you've elicited a response. It doesn't always have to be so technical. It doesn't always have to be that way. And Ike asked a good question. Is this an anti-Costco food video? I'm assuming. If it isn't, then that's a problem. But I think it is. Now, if you come in here and tell me that you think Sam's Club has better food, you are trash, and I disagree wholeheartedly. I don't have the strong opinion on either food, to be honest. But it's interesting. Oh, so Elliot Family says no, it's a food shortage video. I wouldn't necessarily have gotten that. But obviously, this is an example where with the title and thumbnail, I probably would have. I don't know, man. Sam's Club hot dogs are pretty all right. Yeah, pretty I is not as good as a chicken bake. I rest my case. Hello there, CJ Enda, coming in on probably the weirdest debate I've had on my channel. But yeah, let me know in those comments. Are you a Sam's Club or a Costco kind of person? And if you don't have either or, you can always just shop online at Amazon, unless you're anti-Amazon. But since it is about how there's no food, I would say that it has a good click-through rate. What is how long are people watching? What is the watch time? Because this to me, without any other context, looks like you're telling me you don't want Costco food. This comes from Moto Travel. Should a thumbnail target a chapter topic near the end of a video, or does that matter? Your thumbnail needs to be representative of the video entirely. It doesn't need to be a section, it needs to be the full thing. Ideally, it needs to help like really stress the value the viewer is giving to the person who's going to be watching, and it needs to be enticing, right? Like this thumbnail I think is very enticing. This thumbnail, I don't know how well it does on a food shortage. It just looks like they're anti-Costco food. So what is 49.6% watch time? I mean, this is performing. And if people are staying around, it means that past the thumbnail, they're learning about the food shortage. I'd say this is performing pretty well. I don't know how many people are looking up what the video exactly is. Does Costco have a food shortage? Is what you've titled it. So I'd say for that, it may not be a great fit. That's where if we go back to TubeBuddy, we can do a little bit of keyword research. Costco food shortage. Like how many people are looking up Costco food shortage? Because I just genuinely don't know. It's got it doesn't have that much interest. So from what you've targeted the Elliott family of 7, it's actually doing pretty well. So this is just an example of you want to make it better. You might just be dominating in here. But interestingly enough, when I type in Costco food shortage, you're not showing up. But I know you titled it, Does Costco have a food shortage? But ideally, if you have your SEO right, which looking here, it could be better, I would definitely try targeting that a little bit more. Right now you're calling it a Costco grocery haul, which isn't the same thing of is there a shortage? So keep in mind the metadata you are targeting as well. It's just a little bit of a deeper dive, but obviously, the thumbnail is performing where you have hit it. So, yeah, not bad. Hopefully that helps you there. I think that is all for the thumbnails that have been sent my way. We have talked on a few things thumbnail related, but I want to know. I'm here to answer any questions like we just did with Shmoto Travels. So if you have any questions about a YouTube thumbnail, any question on how we should look at them, what we should be looking for in analytics, I am all ears. I am excited to be here. Thank you so much for everything you guys have been doing. The Elliott Family of 7, I hope that helps you. We're not done yet, but I'm curious. Now, as we wait, and I know people will have some questions and things, highly, highly recommend that you check out Google's Cloud Vision. See how some of your most popular thumbnails are being looked at. Be objective. I can't stress that enough. This is an example of the thumbnail that if I'm objective about, is I'm waiting for it to load, apparently. Sometimes it won't. What? My computer has frozen, but we are still live, I think. Oh, there we go. So joy was caught. That's what I was going for. I'm going to be critical of myself. It's not spoof. It's not medical. Person. Smile. Easy acoustic phone setup. This one didn't do well. But it's noticed easy acoustic foam setup. It's noticed the color palette I went for. But believe it or not, this one didn't perform well. And if I'm looking objectively, the text is clear. I think you can get a good value of this. I think it could just be that I might need I should have had maybe a stronger emotion. Maybe I should have been more clear that this is joyous. Thank you so much there, Chris. I hope you have a good stream yourself. Maybe someday we could stream together. But as I look here, I could do a little bit better here. And that's just me being objective. That's me thinking of what I've done well, what I could do better. And this is really about a setup that you can do without a wall. Maybe another thumbnail, and this is just me thinking aloud. I could actually show this on the wall because right now it's just me holding it. I don't know if that necessarily sells that point. So this is just me looking at it objectively, trying to figure out what is the case. Maybe a note or two on the thumbnail? Not sure. Another thing I want to show, we kind of showed off some of those that can be accidentally racy. But what if we focus on this one, right? Like this was from a video game. This is from Left 4 Dead 2, which is a video game, supernatural creature. So it's identifying it correctly. But here's something interesting. Because of its possible violence, I've actually worked on changing this thumbnail out. This is a creature from the game. So that's why it is this. But it's actually done very well. But by changing it out, it made it more focused. Now, it's interesting going back to my older thumbnails because I can tell how I've gotten better. Like if we go back really far, like look at my old thumbnails here. Now, someone might click on this, but like look at the other faces in this thumbnail. This one is the thumbnail I've gotten better at. Like so much I've gotten better at in thumbnails in terms of like look at how brown this thumbnail is. Hello there, David Hunt. So in the description, there it is linked, but I'll make sure to give it for you. Asking for a friend late to the party. No worries. So this is Google Cloud Vision, and it is analyzing, it is free. It analyzes thumbnails and it gives you an idea of how the face is looking. I actually, if you'd like, you can submit your photo or your not photo, but your video or your thumbnail to get reviewed, and let's take a look at it. But this is an example of how I've improved personally because like this is really brown and like nothing really pops. And I mean, I'm pointing to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, but if I go to mobile, you can barely see it. So this just shows me that there are ways I can even improve this older thumbnail, but it shows you that I'm not above criticism. I'm always learning. One of my favorite quotes from Michelangelo is I'm still learning. But yeah, if we look at my older thumbnails compared to, a more modern one, they're night and day different. They're really, focused on different emotions. They're more emotionally based. Like this thumbnail. This thumbnail I was going for surprise, but clearly I didn't have that strongly in my face. The objects, I get why it thinks that's a piece of clothing. I mean, it's kind of hard to understand. Oh, Luth fam. Whew. So sorry. Poggy. Good morning, I guess. Um, Kayla, Okay, Elastic, if you could submit a thumbnail in the form, I could give you a little bit more info, but with that, or it's kind of hard to do with just that alone. So highly recommend submitting. Whew. Kamutidor. You sleep. Kamutidor. Salakan. Please sleep. No, Chris, you've had one. How dare you? I thought you were leaving me for another stream. I don't mind, Chris. Why not? Ike's like, why don't you sleep and listen? Of course, there's always, saya belajar bahasa Indonesia. Saya mencoba tetapi ini sulit. Saya suka bahasa. Tidak bagus. I'm not good at speaking Indonesian, for those who are wondering. Then I guess you have your answer there, Chris. I don't know why it's not allowing other answers, but I can try to fix that. Chris is like, okay, I'm having a lot of opinions that are not really strong for myself, but uh, you should be able to put in another one there. That's really good and awesome. Well, thank you. That means a lot. I am trying. All I hear is Simlish. Well, actually, fun fact: Simlish is a combination of Vietnamese, a lot of languages, but I know some of them like more common are Indonesian, Vietnamese. Um, I think there's some Thai in there. I know there's a lot of different languages that make up Simlish. But when I hear susu in Simlish, that's milk in Indonesian. So it's just kind of funny to me because it's just milk. But Kayla Tastic, please, I hope you submit an answer. It can be a YouTube video if you can't get the thumbnail to work. But yeah, really is a lot of fun. I wanted to thank everyone who's joining. I see we're getting some more people. I see some of you have shared this out. It really does mean the world to me. And so I've been enjoying this. I hope you guys have as well. We are not done. So, as we wait for more questions, this is also an example of if I look color palette, I have a lot of brown. That's what I'm learning. You can also tell how tan I was back then. Look at how white I am now. The difference is staggering. Tan Andrew versus white Andrew. Need to go out in the sun when it is safe to do so. Yeah, I use a lot of brown in my older thumbnails is what I'm learning. If I look at some of the more recent gaming ones, though, like if I look at this one, another thing I can look at is this one also has a pretty diverse color palette. It shows two of the objects that I was doing, camera and the Elgato. I mean, the labels are wow, thanks. It says, I mean, I am mostly I'm mostly forehead. Thanks, Google. I really love that. Microphone is interesting. Not really prevalent here, but I guess. Camera lens, I get. Photographer, digital camera, all that makes sense. Mirrorless. Ironically, that's not a mirrorless camera, but you know, I see a question here. Yep, we all need vitamin G, says CJ, and for sure. Luthfam says, Andrew, can we change the thumbnail every 1 week or every 1 month? If you're running an A/B test, you definitely can, but if your thumbnail is performing, definitely wouldn't recommend it. You do also, you have here if the thumbnail doesn't work, I mean CTR less than 5. What are your impressions, right? Because if you have like a lot of impressions but a low CTR like that, that's actually not bad. That's pretty good. So it's all dependent, but if you have a video that's been up, and I've seen this, like it's been up for a couple weeks, it's getting like 1 to 2 impressions a week. It's time to change that thumbnail. Also, look critically at the title. So you can, but I wouldn't recommend changing it every week. I'd just, get some data, see what's working, see what you can improve. See that Chris has replied with another one. But I want to make sure that we focus on some of the others who are here as well, Chris. If Chris is like, how dare he? I'm sorry. Again, I've had a lot of strong opinions I don't really hold in the stream. But I will say, Chris, I need to know which is better, Costco or Sam's Club. I need a hard decision before I look there. If I don't hear it, how am I supposed to help you? If I don't know where you stand in this war of Costco and Sam's Club. Uh, Quiet time piano. So right off the bat, definitely get quiet time piano. Tell your story. Live worship piano. I don't necessarily get that this is live. One of the simple things you can do is like add a red border over the live, really call to that fact. Another thing I'd keep in mind is that I don't think that you in it is bad, but maybe if you could have one where it is like you playing piano, or if the piano is a little bit more prevalent, because right now with the background like this, it's kind of blending in together, so it's a little bit Restaurant Depot. You know what? Abstract discovery, the name checks out. That was both abstract and I have definitely made a discovery. So I will allow it. Costco, says Chris. You've made the right choice. But if we look here, what I will say is that as I look afar, and this is one of the things I wish, and I know that this is just a very niche use case. The quiet time piano, tell your story live, worship piano, it blends in very bad with the background. A simple stroke effect on the text can help and really help that stand out. I'd also say, adding more light to really make yourself pop against the background would help because you're wearing a black shirt and it's black on purple, so it's just really dark colors there. It's identifying your glasses first and foremost, then microphone, then you as the person, which is interesting. So it shows that there's it can identify the glasses easily. Another thing you can do, which YouTube recommends, is if you do, they call it a blink test. What stands out if you look at a thumbnail and blink? And when I do that, for me, it's the microphone. So when you watching, I want you to give feedback. When you blink at this thumbnail, when I get rid of all that, when you blink and look at this image, what pops out to you? I'm curious. And I notice you do have a stroke or outer glow on yourself, so you definitely could add that to your text. Properties, though, a lot of purple. Again, we wanna have some contrasting colors. I'd actually recommend maybe an orange background on yourself to really make yourself pop. Again, just purple in that way. Quiet time piano, tell your story live, worship pajano. I mean, it tried. It was pretty close. Glasses, smile, microphone. So yeah, it's gotten the feel down. I do think that, maybe you being a little larger, that joy. I see the joy, but obviously it's having a little bit of a harder time. So hopefully that gives you some really good stuff to look at. I want to see what you're asking. Can you review this thumbnail? Definitely can. So this comes from David Hunt. So hopefully that helps. And hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. I see this from Chris once more. Chris, you've put in 3. Give me 1. I'm not looking at all 3 of those. Come on. Peanut Sack Boy, you've linked to a channel, and I'm not sure if that's what you meant to do. So I don't know where you want me to look at. Let me save this image. So we are looking at Squishy Man, or Squishy Mane, I should say. Yeah, give me 1 version. I'm not going to review all 3. You're not getting special treatment. Give me 1 you want me to look at. Because my opinion won't matter as much as, to me, they're all very similar, genuinely. So I'd make one a little bit more stand out. Now, looking here, you've titled this Cartoon Cat Horror Game. I would maybe make this, if you're going to have red and you want to stand out, maybe make it all caps. Really grab that attention. Then, I mean, the emotion it's getting here may not be the most clear. I mean, it is an emoji, it's not bad. I would maybe put Cartoon Cat much bigger in frame. I don't know, obviously, this looks like it's a still from it. So if you can, if Cartoon Cat comes closer, I'd put Cartoon Cat, like, right up in personal. Like, I would make it his shoulders up because I think that would be terrifying and would really get the idea of the game. This is a great example of somehow this is Segus and Ego Cache. I don't think so. Text is Cartoon Cat, so it's identified that. A lot of black, and because of that, especially in mobile, it's going to be harder to see the cat himself. So that's why I recommend bringing that a little closer. It's not bad, but it's just some things to think of just to make it clear. Spoof is very likely. And again, Cartoon Cat might be a spoof of Slender Man, it might think. So I definitely could see that. So just some things to think of. I do see that, looking through here, there's some moments of as like scrub through the video, there are moments where Cartoon Cat like gets really close and personal to you. Obviously, I would be careful on that. I know it's a jump scare kind of, but like even here, if I look, like if you can blow that up to be even a little more clear, and like have him, obviously it's a gameplay, so you're doing your best. Been there, so hopefully that gives you some things to think of. But overall, I think there are some ways you can improve, and I hope that gives you some things to think about. We have Moto Travel Vlogs. I look here. So let's go ahead and upload a new file. So the first and foremost thing it's noticing is your headwear. So it's very likely this is headwear. The next thing it's noticing is that you're happy. So what I would say here as a viewer, if I look at this from afar, which is where again most are watching on mobile, this cave and this are completely lost on me. I can barely make it out. How did I end up here is interesting. Maybe, obviously, if you had yourself in front of the cave, that'd be really interesting. But as it is, it's kind of hard. Go to bed, Luth fam. You are completely fine. The replay will be here for you. But it's a little hard for me to see what exactly is going on from so far away. As I look in the objects, obviously it's noticing the helmet, the bike, all of that. Label, helmet, smile, beard, plant, tree. Like it's noticing stuff behind you more than over here. So I would say that, I'd maybe just make this slide the whole focus because these two are kind of. Thank you so much, Abstract Discovery Super Chat. Thank you so much. Thanks. I'm gonna watch this later. I'm going to the Church of Costco. Costco, you have chosen correctly. Thank you so much. I believe I've gotten to your thumbnail. I hope I have. If not, I will make sure to get to it. So do not worry. You have put it in here. Making sure I haven't missed anything. Of course, looking for each of them. I never knew Costco was tax exempt. Oh, maybe. Maybe. But going back to this thumbnail, I think it's really I love seeing how happy you are, and I think that's good. I don't know if these two add anything. Of course, you'll have your data. This is just my opinion. I always recommend you look at your data. Logos, it's identifying here. Oh no, I judge my own thumbnails. I took all my videos down, LOL, starting from scratch. That's fine. Hopefully, this gives you some stuff to think of and improve. Another thing I've noticed here is the color palette, a lot of green. So maybe since there's so much green and blue, how did I end up here in red? Makes sense. Safe search, I don't think you'd hit anything, but spoof, okay. Violence, fair enough. I don't think it's violent, but unfortunately, as we've learned with a lot of more modern things, that The internet can be weird, especially with people in the woods, is all I will say. Looking at you, Blair Witch, looking at you, all of those things that it can think woods equals bad. But, of course, that's where the context we are human. You are happy. How did I end up here? Also, this could look a little violent. I mean, there is a helicopter, so I get it. But that being said, I do think this is a pretty good thumbnail. I would maybe, instead of having these two comic book kind of panels, really focus on you and your adventure. Maybe make this a little red, make it stand out. Look at what your thumbnail click through rate is and see how you can improve on it. I think that you have a lot that you are doing here that can be really, just enhanced and improved, but overall, not bad. All right, we have a link to a thumbnail. Save image. So let's go ahead and take a look at another thumbnail. Best settings. So I'm assuming this is a Fortnite best settings. If not, I could be wrong. Let's go ahead and see, though, if I made sure I answered everything. Is it too dark? It's hard to self-analyze. I didn't think your thumbnail was too dark, Moto Travels. I would just say that I think the colors are too samey, and those two side panels are hard to distinguish for me personally, and other stuff. So, is it good? Is what is being asked. I mean, I don't know if I'm the target audience here. I will first say that, but thanks says Moto Travel Vlogs. I mean, again, I think it's a really great start. I hope that we can see some improvement there. Looking here, I don't think it's bad, but I would maybe. This is where you could maybe put the Fortnite logo, if this is, or the game logo. This is the settings, but the controllers in Xbox 360 or Xbox. What is the latest Xbox? I'm sorry, 360 is what I grew up with. I know we were past that. The Xbox Series X. What is the X? That's why I like PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch. It's a little easier. I actually love Xbox, but this is just an example of all their naming conventions escapes me. David, you are very welcome. Arthur says it is Fortnite. But is it for PC? Because then I see the controller, which is Xbox. So just something to keep in mind. And even here, like, it's noticed input device and game controller and video game console. So if this isn't for a console, that's what it's identifying it as. So just checking. Maybe it is how to use a controller on the PC, but it looks like this is more graphic settings. It is identifying a lot of the text, which is really impressive. Wow, it's actually gotten all of window mode. Wow, this shows you how powerful this AI is. So it is Fortnite. Gives you an idea of the aspect ratio. A lot of blue. It is safe. I don't think it's bad. I would just say it could use a little bit more clarity because if I'm searching, especially, like, you got to keep in mind a lot of people, again, watch on their phone. This on mobile, I can't tell you what this is. And maybe someone else, the timestamps could block the best settings font. That is true. That is also very true. The time code that it'll be like right here. So that could be blocking that too. So from afar, I can't really tell that this is a settings window. The best settings could be getting cut off by the number as Ike put here. So I definitely get it. It's Fortnite. And I definitely see the, best settings, but it would be blocked and it is a little hard to read. So it's not bad, but I think a retooling of this could make it even stronger. Maybe you put Fortnite best settings all devices or for whatever device it's on, because I know there are different settings. Again, I'm thinking PC, but the controller could be confusing to some people because it is available for controller as well. So just something to kind of keep in mind as we go on. And I see Klastic. Thank you so much. I'm glad you submitted. I was waiting for your submission. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at your thumbnail? Oh, you're making me hungry. So, if you are hungry, it has definitely identified the food. What's wrong with my thumbnails? I mean, objectively, nothing. I mean, it is food. But if I look at your title, it is Best Fried Chicken using Kellogg's Corn Flakes. Looking here, and this is just a it's only 71% food. You got well, I think it's 100% food. Arthur, I hope that gives you something to think about. I know that thumbnails especially can be a little difficult for like settings, so maybe, if you look up what people are highlighting on PC settings, kind of, take a look at what people are already utilizing, what they found to work, what you like personally. Those are all just things to think about because that's super useful. I know whenever I play a game, I always look up setting videos and I have a certain look. So everyone has their own personal preference, and I hope that gives you some things to think about. Chris says, "Oh snap, that made me hungry." Uh, Made me hungry. Glad I have a whole grilled chicken in my fridge. Uh, okay, you corrected what God. I was like, what? I was like, you just have one whole fridge, whole chicken. But if I look here, what you've titled this is if I continue moving on here, is that you've called this Best Fried Chicken using Kellogg's Corn Flakes. So this is a very specific call out. You've called it Kellogg's Corn Flakes, but I wouldn't have gotten Kellogg's Corn Flakes at all. Now, this might be an example of where I see the food. It's good looking fried chicken, I'll tell you. Maybe this is an example where we add a little bit more lighting to the chicken because it is a little dark. Although it could be dark meat, but that's not what I mean. I mean the lighting is oh man. Sometimes the jokes work. Sometimes I'm sitting here, you know, I'm pulling at thighs. There we go. Don't even know if you guys can hear that. We do have sound effects. Does it use them though? Well, one thing you could do is you could push the chicken only slightly. I only recommend this because you've titled it using, using Kellogg's cornflakes. I can't say Frosted Flakes as a specific. Get out. Fair enough. Fair enough. I should definitely get out. That's what we were talking about earlier. I'm very white. But, I think maybe even having like you push this over a little bit, push the chicken just slightly, have the Kellogg's to really kind of go there. And then I think that can do some well. So it notices this food, tableware, text. Interesting, it can't read it. I don't think your logo there is bad. I think it's clear for your audience. A lot of brown, which would make sense. I mean, it's fried chicken, but what are ways we could make that pop? I think the plate it's on looks good. I'd also say, by pushing it over, adding in some of those logos that can help. Medical, as I said, what is that text at the bottom right? To me, this is my bottom left. It just seems like it's the logo. Overall, though, not bad. Oh, it just seems to be Kayla. Kayla. I can't tell if this is Kayla-tastic or Kaylastic. Seems like it's just Kaylastic TV. Same as the name there. So I think that's some good stuff you can do. I like the title. So Best Fried Chicken using Kellogg's cornflakes. One thing I'm noticing is that your description could use a little bit of work and similar with your tags. That's not really what we're going in here, but that's something to be. I would suggest using on your food to spice it up for photos. Yes, obviously, though, I don't. I think that that is like a product kind of thing. I don't know if that is something we could do here for this thumbnail because I'm pretty sure Kayla just ate it. Uh, I would love to eat this though. Like personally, I'm hungry, and so you've made me hungry. I hope you're proud of yourself. But if the desired effect is making me want some fried chicken, message accomplished. Would I understand this is with Kellogg's cornflakes though? No, I'd have to say I just think it's some good looking fried chicken, which is good. Don't get me wrong. But let me know, chat. Could you immediately tell that this is Kellogg's cornflakes with the fried chicken? Because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just, you know. And you know what? Ike, look here. Chicken recipes. Ike's favorite topic for live streams. And so, yeah, I would say that this isn't bad, but I would just say that this is something we can take a deeper look on. But you know what else we can take a deeper look on? Our time together. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for joining today. It has been a lot of fun. So many amazing thumbnails, variety, types, Costco superiority over Sam's Club. Thank you all so much for again. If you would like to see another live stream, I go live bi-weekly. Next stream will be up soon here on the channel. Subscribe to learn all about YouTube and filmmaking. I'm Andrew Can. If I can, you can too.